and record. Oh, he's getting it.
Turn off our cameras off. All right. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Oh yeah. He said, I know how to cook.
He said, don't try to tell me.
He said, I'm cooking with good grease.
All right.
Yes. Okay. I guess I'll leave it that way. Tup, tup. Okay. It's okay. We got insurance. Okay, so we're at understanding the whole book, part 17. Now, part 17 requires max participation. Yes. Yeah, max participation. And you know, the design, so does everyone knew that the whole design of this is to search yourselves out, right? All right, so sometimes you get away and we try to see what the word is saying about the latter days, and then somehow that latter day focus back on us, right? So is there everybody's talking about they're waiting for this time, or they're looking forward for this time? I'm not sure, but we'll see. All right, so I put the latter day, the letters of Shaul or Paul's concerning the latter days. So we're going to go over Paul's writings. We're going to go over more on Timothy's writings. And you see the bottom corner, it says same song, different dance. It's basically, you're going to see a repeating, but in a different way. So we're going to see how that works. We'll be going over some study habits that you may want to learn. So I kind of want to use this as another method or of how you might want to study outside of all the other ways I was sharing. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. Here we go. Of course, the rules. Please keep your mic muted except when asking or answer a question. Use the mic to speak. There is a feature in the room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. All questions must be on the topic. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. It's not trying to be rude or anything like that. So that means you're more than welcome to keep talking while your mic is muted. These rules are due to time and the recording of the lesson. These are live teachings. We must give the more enough time to complete the lesson. All right. So we're going to go right into it. How does this work here? There we go. All right, so the writing of Shaul, we'll start here. Now, for color, some things I put on the board, which I'll go over when I get there in verse 11, but I just want you to see that sometimes when you read, sometimes you want to maybe figure out what's going on in the text. So I put it inside the text, so you got to go find a lexicon or a dictionary or a loose track of where you are. So we'll see how that works. So it says, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. And were all immersed unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And all did all eat the same spiritual meat or food, and all did drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Mashiach. But with many of them, Yahuah was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were for our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Verse 10 says, neither murmur you, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now verse 11 says, now all these things happen unto them for ensamples. Now the word ensample, typos, which means a mark, a type, a form, an outline, or a figure. So, and they were all written for our admonition, and then the definition of that word means for our warning, our instructions, upon whom the ends of the world meaning ion or age, are come. All right, so when you look at this here, you hear about what's happening when they were coming out of the wilderness, and everyone knows the story about what happened when they came out the roads, right? So no problems there, right? Then as we get down to verse 11, notice I'm putting some definitions in the Greek there so you guys can see other ways of trying to see more or get a little bit more clarity of what's happening, right? So this is just one way you guys can study. We'll see some more as we go. Any questions about this though? No? All right. All right, so this time, according to Shaul, was the fullness of the Messianic age, okay? Ages. Remember we talking about there is latter day and latter days, and then there's eons or ages. Okay, so we'll see. In Galatians 4:2 says, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of this world. But when the fullness of the time was come, Yahuah sent forth his son, made of a woman under the law. Now, what does it mean the fullness of the time was come?
The appointed time?
Okay, it's appointed time, but it's the fullness of time. What is the fullness of time? He wanted mic.
Well, that kind of brings to mind when Hamashiach said that no jot or tittle of the law shall pass away until all be fulfilled. So I would say that that is basically that great day when everything has been fulfilled and we finally reach that point.
Okay. So when Shaul says, though, he says, but when the fullness of time has come, Yahuah sent his son. So when the fullness of time has come, it says he sent forth his son made of a woman. So did we make it, or is this understanding is the fullness of an age? That's why I showed you earlier, like a messianic age. These things are done in stages, which we'll see later on. Okay, so how are we doing so far? All right, we'll see more. All right, Ephesians 1:7, in whom we have redemption. Now, the word redemption, notice some other definitions for the word redemption. Okay, apolutrosis means a release or a releasing, affected by payment of ransom or deliverance. Through his blood, the forgiveness. I know we all are familiar with the word forgiveness, so I just figured I'd just throw that definition up there just in case it might have slipped your mind. What do you mean when it says forgiveness? What does that mean you have to do? You can sing that song, you gotta let it go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pardon, right? So what does pardon mean? Right, but pardon in general, pardon means if you get a pardon from the president, what does that mean?
Excuse.
Right, it's clean, it didn't even exist anymore, right? You think that's pretty hard for us to do that when we ask for forgiveness, or? Yeah, I can forgive, but I can't forget. Every time I look at your face, it just reminds me. I know it's not us. I just want to share it for those that are online so they can kind of, think about it. Oh yeah. So forgiveness means to let it go, to get it pardoned, right? And of what? Sins. Sins is to commit a fault, lapse, or a deviation from truth. Of course, we know 1 John 3:4, whosoever commits sin transgress also law, for sin is transgression of the law. This is according to their riches in his favor. Oh yeah. Yeah, as I said, this is a good study. Y'all don't study like this? Okay. Yeah, you gotta make sure you get back to the core of this thing. Verse 8, wherein he has abounded towards us in all wisdom and prudence, having made known unto us the mystery. Now, mysterion means secret, hidden things, not obvious to the understanding. Okay, a hidden purpose or counsel. Okay, so having made known unto us the mysteries of his will. So his will is something that is not obvious to understand for some. There's some wills that he already makes plain to you. There are other wills that it takes some revelation, the spirit, the ruach to give, or a certain season or a time that you'll get it. All right. according to his good pleasure, which he has proposed in himself, that in the dispensation of fullness of time, he might gather together in one all things in Mashiach, both which are in heaven and which are on the earth, even in him. So just my little notes, I put the fullness of time is for the believer, that they would be delivered from the rule of Shaitan and from sin. All right, verse 18 says the eyes. Now, you looked up in the Greek and tell you eye or apple of his eye. Metaphorically, the eyes of the mind, faculties of knowing, okay, of your understanding, being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling and what the riches of the esteem or the chabod of his inheritance in the Kedoshim, or in the saints. And of course, we know what saints are. If you don't, you can take a look at Revelations 14:12. All right, it says, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power to us who believe, according to the workings of his mighty power, which he wrought in Mashiach when he raised him from the dead and set him in his own right hand in the heavenly places. Who did that?
The Father.
Ah.
Said Mashiach on right hand, but some people believe that Mashiach said
I thought Mashiach did that.
Oh, sorry.
They couldn't hear. He was just going on a rant. He's going on a tangent.
You know, the Father set the Mashiach on his right hand, but some people believe that the Mashiach set himself on his own right hand.
Oh,
So
okay.
Mashiach is sitting next to himself. He's a symbol. Yeah, he gave his own self power and stuff.
Okay. All right. Verse 21 says, far above all principalities and power and might and dominion. So I highlighted this because we'll be talking about that in the future, what that means. And every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come. So there's an age of this age and an age to come. Keep that in mind. So they're at an age that this is a messianic age, and there's another age to come. Keep that in mind. All right. So he says, and he has put all things under his foot and gave him to be the head over all things, to be called out ones commonly called assemblies, which is his body, the fullness of him that fills all in all. Okay. So how are we doing so far? Easy? Probably because I haven't asked you guys the questions that I want to ask you just yet. Okay. Oh no, it's coming. Trust me. Make sure you guys got a big bottle of water. All right, 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Mashiach, he is a new creature. Old has passed away. Behold, the new Kenyas, or the new nature, new first unfamiliar, has come. All this is from Yahuah, who through Mashiach reconciled. Reconcile means to change, exchange, to return, to favor us to himself, and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. Okay, so first we need to know new creature, new creation. What is a new creation? Anyone? These are all things that you guys know, so that's why these are not the questions that I have for you yet. You'll see what they are in a minute. But what's a new creation?
New being in the truth, you know. You know the truth now.
Okay, new being in the truth. Okay.
Yeah, he set us with new meaning of what his word was supposed to be back from the wilderness.
Mhm.
He changed our mind thoughts.
Mhm.
He changed us to try to be obedient.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So just curious, you know, you can answer later on. Just curious. Where are you guys getting these answers from? Is there a scripture for that? Oh, okay. No worries. We'll talk about it later. I got you. All right. All right. Because you know, when people ask, they want to know where you're getting this from. This could be from you, right? Of course, we say no. I've read it before. I may not have the address now, but I had it, right? Got it. All right. That is in Mashiach. Yahuah was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses, commit a fault, lapse, or deviation from truth and uprightness, misdeeds against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. So that is in Mashiach that you're going to get this forgiveness. You're going to get this, Your trespasses now won't be counted against you. And everyone knows what trespass is. Okay. Sins. Okay, great. All right. Isaiah 43:1 says, but now thus saith Yahuah that created you, O Yaakov, and he that formed you, O Yisrael or Yeshua, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. And I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons or my children from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even everyone that is called by my name. For I have created him for my esteem, my chabod. I have formed him. Yea, I have made him. Okay, so he's making him. He's created. Remember, he created Israel to be a praise to him. Right now, when he created Israel to be a praise, there are some things that he wanted in his creation: laws, statutes, commandments, decrees. Right? That's what he gave them. And then when they said yes, they became his. Mind you, that cycle is going to repeat itself. 15 says, I am Yahuah, your Kodesh one, the creator of Yisrael, your king. Okay, so the new creation is you. Your old ways are to be
Passed away.
when did that happen?
Take me to the water.
So, everyone been in the water? Everyone here's been in the water, right? Now, I'm not talking about how many times it took you to get down in the water. You just didn't want to let that leaven go. I'm not talking about none of that. I'm just saying everyone's been to the water though, right? Okay, all right. I mean, some people took about 15 tries. All right, no names. All right. It says, we also read that through Mashiach, we are being reconciled to Yahuah. Reconciliation of the world to Yahuah is through his son. This new creation is a turning point of the age or the ages. So the age that Mashiach came, now we're in an age that we have to now accept who he is, right? So there's reading, and this has been read in your ears and you're hearing, you guys know the whole story about what he says. This is a time, everything is set up in a certain season, okay? All right, we'll keep going. It says, for he says, I have heard you in a time accepted and in the days of salvation. Salvation means deliverance, preservation, safety, health, okay? Have I helped you? Behold, now is accepted time. Behold, now is the, at that particular moment, is that the day of, how is it the day of salvation? How? Anyone? So they want to see what's happening here. First, can anyone ask me, how can he say now is the acceptable time? Behold, now is the day. How is that now? And in his day, how is that now salvation? He said he got the black mic. He don't want to use it.
You know, saying now, you know, Mashiach, in that time, Mashiach had come and it's been revealed. So he's saying, yeah, right now is the acceptable time. All that other stuff that we were doing, you know, in him, we're made clean. We've been reconciled. Salvation's through him. So now, even now.
So how's it work for us? If it was for them at that time, how's it work for us now?
It should be the same thing.
Slicha?
He said it should be the same thing.
How?
Well, isn't his word the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow?
It is. But when they had the salvation at that time, he says now is the salvation. How did that now become the salvation? Okay, we know it through the Son. But look at the word salvation. What does it mean?
Preservation.
So even now we have preservation, we have safety. Hell, it's okay. All right. So my point is, you see, when you put the definition in the sentence, it's designed to help you get that answer so fast. You guys are going somewhere I don't know. I do not know. I'm just going to tell you that the definition is inside right there. That definition. I said salvation. That's all right. Yeah, maybe that's not the way to study for you guys. All right, so we'll keep going. 2 Corinthians 6:16. It says, and what agreement has the temple of Yahuah with idols? For you are the temple of the living Yahuah, as Yahuah Elohim has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Yahuah, their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Now, it's in purple because this is the places where you can find it. So when you hear, as he has said, or you hear something as it is written, or in the scriptures, that tells you that it must have been written somewhere else, and it got it from somewhere. Is everyone with me so far? So I'm just giving it to you here. Leviticus 26:11 says, and I will make my dwelling among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I will walk among you and will be your Elohim, and you shall be my people. Now, if you keep going above there, it gives you this, if you want to walk out Leviticus chapter 26, it gives you like a little timeline. So I put Leviticus 26 lists commandments and promises for those who obey the commandments. Okay, so the chapter begins with a prohibition of idols and commands to observe the Shabbat. You see that 26:1 and 2. Then lists promises of a good harvest, 4 and 5, and a peace in the land, 26 verse 6, and victory over the enemy, 7, 8. So if you follow this pattern, it's going to happen again. So it's just another way of studying. Okay, is everyone with me so far? All right. Verse 17, it says, wherefore come out from among them, and be you separate, saith Yahuah, and touch not the unclean thing. So the word unclean here, I left you with the Greek here, and it says unclean and pure. Notice if you keep going in 26, it talks about these dietary laws, right? But it also has, in a moral sense, unclean in thought and life. You can make yourself unclean with your thoughts. Okay, so not just, you know, some roaches or shrimp, some lobster, crab. Yeah. Well, they're the same family. Yeah. Crawfish. Yeah. Oh, they're roaches. They're just water roaches. That's all. So all the water bugs and that are unclean, plus your mind, your thoughts can make that. Now, mind you, you want him to dwell in you. Everyone agree. Yeah, I want the Father to dwell in me, right? And you got these nasty thoughts while he's with you. You think that's how that works? Okay. All right. So I'm so glad we're doing so well. All right. And I will receive you, right? So there's some other places you can read about it. I just, you know, for future, if you want to go more into that. Anyway, 2 Corinthians 6:18 says, and will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith Shaddai Yahuah. All right, 1 Enoch talks about creation. So there's a creation that we just talked about ourselves. And then, you know, there's a physical creation, right? We're going to see how they tie together in a minute. But it says, book 3 says, the book of the or the luminaries of heaven, or Shamayim, the position of each and every one, in respect to their ranks, in respect to their authorities, and in respect to their seasons, each one according to their names and their places of origin, and according to their months, which Oriel, the Malach here, the Kodesh Malach, who was with me and who also is their guide, showed me, just as he showed me all their treaties and the nature of the years of the world unto eternity, till the new creation, which abides forever, is created. Now, there's a new creation coming physically, right? New heaven, earth. And then there's a new creation that's coming for your body. Somehow these two got to mirror each other. Okay? Does anyone know how that works? No? Okay. No problem. We'll keep going. Jubilee 129 says, and the Moloch of the presence. You can find Isaiah 63:9. I put that down there just for you guys' convenience. Who went before the camp of Yisrael, took the tablets of the division of years from the time of the creation of the law and testimony, or the law of witness. What does that mean? Now, mind you, this law of witness is, what is he talking about? This creation of the law of witness, what is this about? I might have read it too fast. Let me go back. The Malach of his presence, okay, who went before the camp of Israel, took the tablets of the division of years from the time of creation of the law and witness, according to their weeks of years, according to the jubilees, year by year, throughout the full number of jubilees, from the day of creation until the day of the new creation, when the heaven and the earth and all their creatures shall be renewed according to the powers of heaven, according to the whole nature of earth, unto the sanctuary of Yahuah is created in Jerusalem or Jerusalem upon Mount Zion. And all the lights will be renewed for healing and peace and blessings for all the elect of Israel or Israel, and in order that it might be thus from that day unto all days on the earth. Okay, so there's going to be a creation and a renewed creation for a lot of things that's going to take place. We'll see that in the future. Jubilee 2:1 continues and says, and the Malach of his presence spoke to Moses by the word of Yahuah, saying, write the whole account of creation, that in 6 days Yahuah Elohim completed all his work and all he created, and observed a Shabbat the seventh day, and purified or sanctified it for all ages, and he set it as a sign for all his work. Ages, why is it not age? So you're going to see at some point that ages also linked to jubilees. Also, they're also linked to appointed times. These are certain ages. Isaiah 63:9 is just because it talks about the Malach of his presence was with him in the wilderness. This is what this portion is about. So I left it there, but I'll just read. In all their affliction, he was afflicted, and the Malach of his presence saved them. In his love and in his pity, he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. Okay. Isaiah 8:20 sounds like Jubilees, chapter 1, verse 29, to the law and to the testimony, just like the creation has laws and the testimony. So to law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, is because there is no light in them. So the law and the witness is to be found in us. We are also to be a new creation. So everyone's good so far. See, there's new creation, meaning this world, and there's going to be new creation, meaning yourself, right? All right. So when we put the precepts together, we can see two parts to this transformation. The new creation is the first turning point of the age or ages. We must first become a new creature or a creation, and the old way or ways are passed away. This part is a decision of our own free will. So he's not going to force you, right? This is something that you got to make a decision for. I love his laws, statutes, commandments. I want to do them, right? So you got to make a decision. As we change, we are tested and given a gift, the Haruach, or the Spirit, that will guide us. We will become matured, technically adults, if you will. This is the age or age Shaul was referring to. While this process is happening, creation is eagerly waiting for the children of Yahuah, right? They're waiting for these. Who's waiting for this? The creation is waiting for us to become new creations, right? All right. Yep, Romans 8 says, for I consider that the suffering of this present time are not worth comparing with the esteem that is to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of Yahuah. For the creation was subjected to fertility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope, that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the esteem of the chabod of the children of Yahuah. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until right now. What do you mean now? Right? Then it says, and not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruit of the Spirit grown inwardly as we wait eagerly for the adoption as sons, the redemption of our. All right, so you see, the body part is going to come last. It's like saying, I got a test here. How many, if you all had $1 million, $5 million, whatever it is, and you got your children, I'm not going to talk bad about nobody's kids. And you say, you know what, I want my kids to prosper, but do they have to show you that they're a good steward of this before you give it to them?
Can.
Right? So that's the same thing. If I was looking at us to see, Michelle talks about the talents he's given and see what we're going to do with it, you know, and then if we're successful, then there's a reward in the end. Your bodies is going to change, which we'll talk about towards the end of this lesson here. All right, so everyone's good so far? All right. So next comes a new heaven and a new earth, which you talk about Isaiah 66:22. It says, for as a new heaven and a new earth will I make, shall remain before me, saith Yahuah, so shall your seed, your name remain. So the new heaven and the earth will be with a seed that is also new. It will have a new heart and have his laws and his commandments, and it will be his witness throughout the earth. Everyone's familiar where this is located, Yirmiyahu and Ezekiel 36. Everyone's familiar with all of this, right? Awesome. Just as the days of Noah, so will it be in our time. A lot of wickedness will be going on, and only a remnant will hear the plans of Yahuah, right? So what happened during the times of Noah that you guys can relate to today? Yeah, so, I mean, you guys got some parallels of what happened in Noah's time to today? Never saw it, just went right.
People were marrying, were being married and just going about their business.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Ken. Okay, anyone else?
Well, there was a lot of wickedness all over the earth.
You asked a question as in the
As it
days
is
of
today.
Noah. So just like it is nowadays, it was lawlessness.
Lawlessness. I think you're breaking up. You might have to go closer.
People are giving into
There you
marriage.
go.
They were just living their normal lives, and then destruction came upon them.
Okay. All right, keep that in mind. I know Noah had a.
I'm sorry, you're breaking, Moreh.
Huh? I couldn't hear you. You kind of breaking up.
You're breaking up. I'm sorry, Moreh.
It's okay. Just get closer to the Wi-Fi box. Okay, we'll keep going. All right, 1 Timothy 4:1. We'll go over just the bottom part of it, not so much the top part. So it says, now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the latter times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. What's a seducing spirit?
Something that lures you away.
Okay.
It's seductive. It's
temptation.
Exactly, a temptation.
Okay. All right. And doctrines of devil. What is doctrines of devils?
Demonic teachings.
Not according to the Torah.
Lawlessness.
Another testimony.
No, doctrines of devils. Does anyone know what doctrines of devils is? So we're gonna say, if it ain't got nothing to do with Yah, as far as you're concerned, it's just doctrines of devils.
Witchcraft.
Okay.
We bring in types of anachronism. We call it speaking to the dead. Necromancy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So mind you, this is doctrines.
Yeah, teachings. Yeah.
Of devils, right?
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. We'll see it a little bit later. Speaking lies and hypocrisy. Does anyone know what that means? Speaking lies and hypocrisy. Okay, I know it's kind of strange. It's the first time reading that. Huh?
In hypocrisy.
It says speaking lies in hypocrisy. How does that work?
They know they're doing it. So they're pretending to be telling you the truth, but they're really telling you lies.
Okay. Having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
They don't even realize they're wrong.
Hmm?
That's
Okay.
how bad it is.
Okay, we'll see if that's what that means in a
Yeah,
minute.
Okay, let's see.
Is that more is that seared with a hot iron is like you've done it so much to the point where it's no longer you no longer feel it. Like, you know, it's when you say I'm gonna stop cussing and
You said cussing like profanity?
yeah, like say like profane.
Okay.
Like,
Okay, go ahead. Talk to me. Uh-huh.
just like that, and then you realize after you stop saying profanities, then you start noticing around you every time it's said. But if
Oh,
you're someone that speaks it a lot, then you don't even realize. I've had people say, "Oh, dang, I didn't even know I
yeah.
spoke profanity." So is that what
Burned inside him? I understand. I'm with you. You had something?
Or you could say that you lie so much
Oh,
that it
you
becomes
need a mic.
as truth.
Go ahead, Aki. You can finish up.
You say you lie so much, it's just you think it's the truth now.
Oh, okay. You
Make
done
a
told you-
half truth.
Okay.
Can it be a moral standard,
Immoral standard.
immoral standards, just opposite of what we're supposed to be doing? We just cook up little lies and it sound good to us, but
Okay. Okay, so that's a possibility. Uh-huh. Forbidding to marry and commit. Someone has something else? Oh,
Okay, when you said sear with a hot iron, I'm thinking when you sear something with an iron, you impress it in. So they're negative and conscious is like impressed in. They don't really care what they're saying. They have no conscience.
okay. All right. Says forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats, which Yahuah has created to be received with thanksgiving from them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of Elohim is good. Nothing is to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving. For it is what? Purified or sanctified by the word of Elohim and prayer. So it has to be something that has to be sanctified, purified by the word of Elohim and prayer. You can't pray over pig and think it became clean because he created the pig. And so all I got to do is pray over it, but it has to be sanctified or purified by the word first. It cannot be contradicting, right? All right, so it says, but understand this, that in the last days, there will come time of difficulty. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous. Now, I don't want to go too fast. Now, the things that are in the yellow, we're going to talk about in just a minute. The things that are in the white, we will revisit that passage in a few. Okay? All right, so now, so it says, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. How you do that?
Without the natural affections of the female.
Say it one more time.
Men will be without the natural affection of a female. They will cleave to one another unnaturally without natural affection for a woman. Selfness also, boastful, prideful.
Okay, no, that's a little bit different. But we'll see in a minute. That's a little bit different. This here is lovers of their own self, meaning it's specifically themselves, not of anyone else but themselves.
Yeah, because I've been knowing about that scripture since I was about 6 years old. Because my mom, whenever she would get mad at her significant other, she was like, in the scriptures, it says men will become lovers of themselves. They don't care about nobody but themselves. They don't care if they hurt somebody else's feelings or whatnot. And just, it's all about them and them only.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how the other person feels. It's about themselves. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Boast themselves up. Anyone else?
I love me.
Yeah, they'll love themselves more than God.
Okay, love themselves more than the Most High. Okay. Covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemous, disobedient to parents.
Yes.
I know that's.
Yes,
I know we all good on that. None of us do that. That was in their time, in their day.
No, no.
Disobedient to parents, unthankful. Yeah, I guess some of them people unthankful. How does that look?
I don't want that.
Huh?
I'm hungry, but I'm not eating that.
Yeah. You gave me this. This what you want me to eat?
This it. This it.
All right. Unkodesh, or unset apart. He said, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers. What's a false accusers? False accusers.
Bearing false witness.
Bearing false witness.
Okay, bear false witness. Okay.
Not knowing what's going on and just assuming
Mhm.
that what you're thinking is right and you're accusing somebody of something that they did not do.
Okay. Anyone else? How about incontinent?
Accusing the righteous.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say a false accuser is Hasatan.
Okay.
That's what he
Being
does.
an adversary, Hashatan.
Adversary.
Okay. Incontinent, what is that?
Without self-control.
Okay, you're out of control.
You're just out of control. You can't help yourself. I eat too much. I drink too much.
Glutton.
Just too much.
Okay. Fierce. Yeah, fierce. Anyone, you know how that works? How to be fierce? No, none of us. Okay, we keep going. Despiser of those that are good. You're just naturally good, and they just can't stand how good you are. The things you do just irritate you. What she think he or she's a goody two shoes? I always think they, right? Huh?
Moreh, I've been called a swear.
Think you know everything.
Huh?
I said I've been called a swear all my life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's rough.
Toda akuti.
Despise are those that are
You're not
good.
alone with that.
You just can't do good for nothing. You ask, everything has something behind it. You just can't do something good just to do something good. There has to be something behind that. All right. Traitors. We know what traitors are. Heady, high-minded. Who's high-minded? What does that mean, high-minded? I mean, they think so high that they're really intelligent? Oh.
Nah, they too prideful.
Oh, prideful.
Looking down on you.
Okay. Looking down on you.
Moreh, would a braggart be high-minded?
A bragger? Is that what you said? Is that what you said?
I said, would a person that brags be a high-minded person?
They can be. They can be. Mm-hmm.
A braggart?
They can be, definitely. Lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Yahuah or Elohim, of Yah. You know, they love pleasures. What's pleasures more than Yah? What type of things? Like cars, houses,
Sport.
money, juice.
Money, the flesh.
Okay.
Vacation.
Material things.
But sometimes you give them praise for it, right? Thank you, Yah, for giving me this. Okay. All right. Having a form of righteousness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. So if you have these people in your life, I guarantee you they're not your friends. Okay. They are not your friends. Yeah. For this sort are they which creep into houses
and do what?
And lead captive. What's a silly woman? What is that? I don't need the brothers to answer. I need the sisters. What is a silly one? Because brothers may think silly just means you're just laughing.
It's like how Moreh, as the woman is just weighed down with her various lusts, and it doesn't necessarily have to be physical lust. It could be material values, things that she wants.
How about like Delilah? Is that a good example?
Okay. Okay. No, not Delilah. She's a whole different monster there. What did you have?
Ask the question again.
I want to know what a silly woman is. It says, and leads captive silly women laden with sins.
Just
without knowledge, kind of ignorant, maybe.
Maybe
lust,
someone,
material values, physical lust.
Oh.
She's not an obeyer of the
glad,
law.
I'm sure happy to raise of the hands is working great.
Just someone that's not walking in the Torah that showed me.
Sorry, Moreh.
You guys gonna have to raise your hand because you're talking over each other. No one's gonna be able to hear what your answers are.
Sorry, Moreh.
Moreh.
Go ahead.
Moreh.
A silly woman is, she knows the truth, but she's not using her own head and she's listening to what somebody else is telling her, and it's making her silly because she's not going by what the word says.
Okay. Anyone else?
Namana has her hand raised.
Oh, she do. Oh, go ahead, Namana. Thank you so much.
60 seconds.
A silly woman is waiting with various lusts. She's not obeying the law, physical lusts, material lusts,
Okay.
led astray.
All right. Anyone else?
Can it be example of kind of what just happened? You know, just kind of no structure, just out there, no direction, no covering, just.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Right.
Miriam has her hand raised.
Okay, Miriam.
Could it be like a woman that acknowledges there is Yahuah is and the right rulings, but still decides in her mind and her flesh to do otherwise?
Okay. Anyone else? You said you had a mic? No. Oh. My bad. I'm sorry.
She also can have a lack of principles.
Okay.
Of any type. You know, it's all about her and just like I said, principles.
Okay. Then it says, led away with diverse lusts. Okay. So every learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
Keep this in mind.
Interesting.
Because we have to come back to this in a few. All right. So now, the things that you see in the yellow.
Let's deal with it.
Seducing spirits. There's your definition. Okay. Planas, which means leading astray, misleading, leaning into error, a corrupter, a deceiver, someone that is in error, does error. Okay, is everyone with me so far? All right, so now you have Isaiah 19:13 says, the princes of Sa'an are become fools. The princes of North are deceived. They have also seduced Mitzrayim or Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. Yahuah has mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Mitzrayim to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggers in his vomit. Okay, you gotta watch out for people like this, right? Doctrine of devils. So evil spirits or messengers and ministers of the devil. Okay, so these ministers are going to bring forth the doctrine of the devils. That be necromancy and all the other witchcraft, but there's also things that are contrary to the Father's laws and things like that, right?
Can.
All right, so I'll give you Wisdom chapter 2, verse 23 and 24, and Revelation 12:9. This is for Elohim created man to be immortal. That was the original.
Yeah.
Okay. And made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that are of his side do find it. Okay. So, he's going to try to give you all kinds of rewards and things like that. But the only one of his main conditions is going to be, don't do the law, statutes, and commandments. Now, I'm not saying everybody that's in the church and things like that. What I'm simply stating is that the doctrine of devils is about trying to move you away from the Father's law, statutes, and commandments. Okay.
Anybody who says that if you keep the law, you're sinning, that's a doctrine of devils.
Mm-hmm. Now, he's a deceiver. He's a liar from the beginning. Everyone knows what this is. And you have some that just are ignorant in this, right? So that's what I don't want to get caught up in saying, well, are you saying everybody? That's, let's say, church or this or that. That's not what this is about. Specifically, these evil spirits have an agenda. If they can keep you there, they're happy. Revelation 12:9 says, and the great dragon, which was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Shaitan or Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his Malachim were cast out with him. All right, speaking lies and hypocrisy. Okay, so the word hypocrisy is an actor or a stage player. Okay, so mind you now, he's lying in hypocrisy. So what does that mean? Okay, anyone know what a lie is, right? Okay, great. So if you just add the definition to lie, in, everyone know what the word in means, right? Okay, in hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means an actor or a stage player. When you put those two together, what do you get? Are you serious? Cut the camera.
He's lying while being an actor.
All right. All right.
All actors lie.
I tell you what. Let's look at something. The Testament.
Got a question over here.
We'll read this, and then I'll get it. Testament of Benjamin 6:5. The good set of mind does not talk from both sides of its mouth. Okay, praises and curses, abuse and calm and strife, hypocrisy and truth. Okay, poverty and wealth, but it has one disposition, uncontaminated and pure towards all men. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says massive hypocrisy, a want of self-control and abundant foolishness, a zeal for arrogance and abominable deeds, fashioned by horse desire. Lechery, someone that's unrestrained.
They do everything.
They are just unrestrained. Okay,
both ways.
And it's filthy manifestations. Okay, all right. And then Matthew 23:28 says, even so you also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. All right, so if you know hypocrisy is dealing with someone that's acting, and you got someone that's lying, how do you put those two together now? Huh? Okay. Anyone? No one? No, we just
Could it be?
I got it.
Could it be
two-faced
that they are
okay
acting, and as they're acting like a righteous person, they're telling you to do something, and they're not even doing the thing they're telling you to do?
Right, because hypocrisy, think about someone that's telling you to do something that they won't do. Okay, they're lying about something that they won't do. Right, hypocrisy in lies. You know, they know what they're supposed to do. They don't do it. You know, but they're acting like they do it, and they're really lying. Is everyone with me so far?
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So now you got this outer look and this inner look.
So that's why it's important for you to know your brethren, those that labor among you, because you know we can hide easily if we don't see each other week to week. And what I do at home maybe differently than what I do in the assembly.
Yeah,
I might be walking around all pious and speaking nice to everybody.
Shalom,
but then when I get to work, everybody knows somebody else.
Yeah, so you can be nice. Everyone looks a certain way. They act a certain way. Hence the term act, hypocrisy. They act a certain. But outside of that, they're not the same person. You know, you have someone try to infiltrate a camp. You know, in order to get in there, you got to act a certain way. But you know you're lying. But you got to act a certain way just to gain that person's trust, love, faith, whatever it is. Is everyone with me so far? But I guess the reason why no one really knows it because you guys never experienced that. So I'm glad I was able to share. Wow. I mean, thank you, Father, for the revelation.
Experiences from the pulpit.
Toria has his hand raised, then Mana.
Okay. Okay, you said who got it?
Toria first,
Toria,
then Naamana,
Naaman,
then
Naaman,
Kanisha.
and then okay. All right, so I'm ready. Toria, you ready?
Yes, I was going to say it's a pretender is what it is.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good. All right, Naaman, you had something?
See, Moreh, would you say that's why the Father said it's important to test all things and to pray for discernment even among our mishpachah and just in general?
I'm kind of lost. Are you wanting to know the counter of that or just the definition of that word?
The definition of word.
Okay, so no, it won't fit the definition of the word. Okay.
Okay, the counter.
Uh-huh. Right. So that's what you would want, right? Okay. You said who else was it? Okay, Kanisha and then William. Kanisha and then who else? Okay, and then William. Okay. Kanisha, you had something?
Yeah, I do. I have a statement. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't call myself an actor per se, and I wouldn't say someone that's infiltrating. But coming into the walk, I loved knowing that finding out that there was a way to him. So I would dive into it and I would try. I guess I don't really understand when you say acting. You're trying to keep the ways, and you're trying to learn the culture of him and how he is. And so I don't know if I don't know, that kind of hit me. So I don't know, what does that mean? I'd be acting? Because honestly, I was just having a conversation the other day, and I was having a conversation the other day, and I was telling somebody I don't like who I am outside of him. So I try to. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Right. Yeah, but there's a difference when you're desiring to do something. When you want to, your desires to be obedient to the Father, you want to learn more about him, you want to grow, you're seeking him. That's different from an actor that's supposed to already know something, and now they're acting out, but they're acting out something that they actually do know, but they're lying about it. Okay, so for example, he called the scribes and Pharisees hypocrites, but they're also called lawyers of the word. Lawyers of the word, meaning those that know the law, but they're not doing what the law says. He says, why do you transgress with these? See, in other words, they do know it, but they're transgressing and they're acting like they do know all of this stuff. In reality, they're lying to the people. And so the examples you would see is when the Mashiach is talking to the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees. Okay. All right.
So
Someone else?
So my thing then, would it be an outer thing? So you said they know it, so they would look the part, but inwardly, would that be a fair contrast between the two? A look the part and a actual inside.
Right. So if I say, hey, I know what righteousness is, I can tell you in Isaiah 51:7, I can say Deuteronomy 6:25, I can go to Psalms 119. I can tell you what righteousness is all day. But if I'm not doing it, but I'm telling you to do it, I'm telling everybody else to, and I'm not doing it. But if you ask me, absolutely, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm lying. I'm a hypocrite. I'm an actor. So what I'm saying is, this is something that I know, but I'm not walking out what the word tells me to do. I'm not acting out what I preach, so to speak.
Toda.
You said William?
William, and then Tagoma.
Okay.
Slicha Moreh. With the overall perspective of Christianity regarding Shaul's writings be one of hypocrisy, meaning that Paul is telling people to not do something that he did. He kept the Torah, he kept the feast days, but it's Christianity. I mean, I guess, how would you perceive Christianity? Are they looking at Paul as a hypocrite?
Oh, no. I think that's why they say Shaul's writing and Paul's writings, they misunderstand them. Mm-hmm. They don't understand what he's saying. They don't understand the laws that he's fighting and the laws of his forefathers. There's a lot that he's talking, what he's going against. He's not going against the Father himself, especially when he tells you he tells you, for example, that the law is good and is righteous. Mm-hmm. So he's telling you how they are, but then you go into Galatians 4:1 and 2, and he starts talking about a different law. Yeah. If he's talking about there's another law, find the law of sin. In other words, everyone looks at, when you hear the word law, it automatically means Yah. And that's not the case with Shaul. But in Christianity, they've inherited lies. So they're not doing this on purpose, meaning, you know, unless they start to, you know, I guess research and things like that, they could be operating like a baby. I know a lot of babies that are rebellious, you know, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, they're pretty rebellious, you know, and if they're in that stage, they just need to keep growing and maturing. They need to learn, as it says, the elements, or they call the oracles of Elohim all over again. They need to restructure what they get, the information they get it from, let's say from the pastor, the minister, whoever they got it from. They just believed it. They didn't go back and research and study. But now, if they did their own research and allow the Father's Spirit or Ruach to dwell in them, they'll start to see things a little bit that now are starting to do feast days. There's something to do laws, you know, and they're still calling themselves Christians.
Yeah. Torah.
All right. You said Togum? Okay. Yeah, sure. You had something?
Oh yeah, Moreh, just a quick thing. I mean, with me, I think would I be a hypocrite if
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I am a hypocrite. You're right.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Because because I got you know, I still got this problem, you know. I don't when is it hypocrisy or when is it justified? Like if you're riding down the street, you know, you're rolling in the car, and then some dude looks at your daughter in some type of way. Would I be in the wrong to approach him in a certain manner?
That's not hypocrisy. That's not hypocrisy.
Is that okay to do that?
If you're saying if someone's looking at your daughter a certain way that you don't like, right. Is it okay for you to approach him? And what are you going to ask him?
I mean, I'm not going to be like,
hi,
the typical
how are
Christian,
you?
The typical Christian, all right, just turn the cheek and all that stuff. I mean,
something wrong with your eyes?
Would I be in the wrong if because I'll be less than a man if I didn't say nothing,
Well, I mean, it's different. You want to protect in your home or protecting your house. I mean, but that's not a hypocrite.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we'll keep going. All right. Having their conscience seared with a hot iron. All right. So Isaiah 44 says, because I knew that you are abstinent, which is the word, it's the Hebrew word that you guys have in your vocabulary. Abstinent means cachet. What is cachet? Hard. It's just translated in the King. Okay, anyways. All right. And your neck is an iron, snu, and your brow or your mitzach, your forehead is brass. Okay. So in Isaiah 48, verse 4, it says, because I knew that you are what? You're hard and your neck is typically like you have a stiff neck. It says iron and sinew, and your brow, your forehead is like brass, right? Right. Okay. So Ezekiel 22:18 says, son of man, the house of Israel is to me has become dross, or sug in the Hebrew, meaning they're moving away. They're going backwards. They're backsliding. Okay. All they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Yahuah, because you are all become dross. And dross means what? Because you guys became backsliding, you moving away from me, technically. Behold, therefore, I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem. This is going to be very key for later on understanding what's going to happen in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, as they gather silver and brass and iron, lead, tin in the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. Okay? So you don't want to have this conscience seared with a hot iron in a negative way, right? So I said, keep in mind 1 Timothy 4:2. So your conscience, and there's your Hebrew word for conscience, sonadesis, the soul as distinguishing between what is morally good and bad, can be manipulated by lies, by those that operate in hypocrisy, an actor. This can be seared, or your neck can be so stiff that Yahuwah will melt you in his anger, his furnace. Sometimes his people or people in general do not want to change or is in a fear of change. His word does not change. So either you change and conform to his word, his ways, or burn, just melt away. And it's not going to kind of go that way for you. But my point simply is this here, is that when we start reading about how things happen, if we always talk about the Father's will, this is, you know, but then you start challenging, you don't want to change, or you have a fear of what it's going to look like, right? What winds up happening is he's like, okay, do you want to do the will or do you not? Right? So that part has to come by way of faith. All right, so almost there. Okay, so my questions hasn't come yet, just so you all know. My questions hasn't come yet. All right. So 2 Timothy 3:15, it says, and that from a child you have known the Chodesh scripture, the set apart scripture, which are able to make you wise unto salvation through faith is in Mashiach Yahusha. So again, this is called the doctrine of Timothy, or the doctrine Timothy taught. So I'm sharing with you what Timothy believed, right? So he says, all scripture is given by inspiration of Yahuwah and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instructions in righteousness, that the man of Yahuwah may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. All right, so we know that the scriptures is good for doctrine, it's good for reproof, it's good for correction, instructions in righteousness. But you remember what he said about the Mashiach. Salvation, though, is through faith which is in the Mashiach. He doesn't replace the law. He doesn't replace the scriptures. Is everyone with me so far? All right, so keep this in mind because we're going to go to the next word. 1 Timothy 1:3 says, as I urged you when I was going to Macedonia, remain at Ephesus so that you may charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine. Now, what's Timothy doctrine? What did he believe? Okay, let me just go back just in case you might have missed it. Don't, no worries. I got you covered right here. What did he believe?
Scriptures.
Okay, right. All right, so keep that in mind if this is what he believes, and he's telling them of addiction. So if you think about what Timothy wrote, and he's telling them, you know, charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine, has that doctrine been changed today?
Yes.
Okay.
Tremendously changed.
Right. So in other words, you'll see now is you don't have to keep law, statutes, commandments. You don't have to keep the scripture anymore. It's just really the Gideon Bible, maybe the little Matthew to Revelations book. The Old Testament is done away with. You don't have to worry about no law, statutes, commandments. None of that stuff is necessary anymore, right? We're under grace and grace only. Grace replaced the law. Faith replaced the law, right? That's how it's typically understood for some, right? And you got to understand, but even in the times of Timothy, he's sharing with you, no. From our youth, this is for correction, for proof, for salvation, everything, but it's through the Mashiach. Okay, I saw a hand up. Kanisha had a hand raised. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's funny that you said that because a lot of times I find that in Christianity, they still quote the Torah, but only like the blessing, and they pronounce those types of things, but it's done away with.
Okay, I think someone's annotating it there. Undo it. All right. So it says, nor to devote themselves to myths and endless genealogies, which promotes speculations rather than the stewardship. Now, if you look up stewardship, it means management, administration, plan to edifying from the Lord that is by faith. The aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. Certain persons, by swerving, because I don't know what swerving is, there's your word there, it means to deviate from or to miss the mark. From these have wandered away into vain discussions. What's vain discussion?
Come on, my debaters.
No vain
Okay.
discussion.
How many points LeBron going to make on the next game?
Okay. Vain discussions. All right. Desiring to be teachers of the law without understanding either what they are saying or in the things about which they make confident assertions. Okay. Timothy, guard the deposit entrusted to you. Avoid their irrelevant babble. What's babble? Huh? Anyone know what babble is?
Share the chat.
Okay.
Saying
You
a
know
whole
what?
lot of stuff that doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. You know what's an interesting definition in the Greek or in the Hebrew is the word bad. It's one of many words for babble, but this word means in the Hebrew there to be alone. So how does being alone have anything to do with babble? Think about somebody that's lonely. They ain't talk to nobody. The minute they get a chance to talk to you, what happens? They do
Non-stop talking.
because they couldn't hear you. So I don't know if you need a mic or anything. Huh? Oh,
yeah, they're gonna tear your ear up. They're gonna talk it off.
okay. So it's just interesting the way that they translate that. But anyway, babble and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. For by professing is some have swerving from the faith. By with you. So had a question?
Yeah, a couple of.
Okay. Miriam, okay.
I don't know, say Moreh.
She hit it by mistake?
Yes, they have first.
Oh. Okay. Namani, you had something?
Oh, wanted the definition of babble. And then more constructive. Definition, it would be nonsensical speech, per se.
Okay, it could be that. But we're going to see it in a minute. Okay, so it says, no problem. 2:16 says, but avoid irrelevant babble, for it will lead people into more and more wickedness. And their talk will spread like gangrene. Among them are, and it's talking about two specific people, Hananias and Philistus, who have swerved from the truth, saying that the resurrection has already happened. They are upsetting the faith of some. But although its firm foundation stands, bearing this seal, Yahuah knows those who are his, and let everyone who names the names of Yahuah depart from iniquity. Okay, so if you don't have to do a whole bunch of arguing and fussing and fighting and having these vain discussions and things like that. That's not necessary, especially when you know that the Father's got to restructure his house anyway. All right, vain discussions or vain thoughts. Okay, Ezra says, do not be quick to think vain thoughts concerning the former things, lest you be hasty concerning the last times. 7:21 says, for Yahuah strictly commanded those who came into the world when they came what they should do to live and what they should observe to avoid punishment. Nevertheless, they were not obedient and spoke against him. They devised for themselves vain thoughts and proposed to themselves wicked frauds. They even declare that Elyon does not exist, and they ignored his ways. They scorned his law and denied his covenants. They have been unfaithful to his statutes and have not performed his works. Okay. All right. Next one is understanding. You've got two here that you guys are familiar with. Psalms 119, verse 34 and 73 says, give me understanding and I will keep your law. Yea, I have observed it with my whole heart. Your hand have made me, fashioned me, give me understanding that I may learn your commandments. Okay, so again, your understanding is going to come out of his word. Everyone, pretty simple, right? All right. What is Babel? Since everyone said it already, empty or fruitless discussions. Okay, discussion of vain things. All right, contradictions. You guys are familiar with opposition or the invention of false knowledge. Okay. All right, knowledge. Everyone's familiar with knowledge. The Hebrew word there is da'at. And the reason why I dedicate a whole slide for this was because knowledge seems to be something that was from the beginning. And out of the ground, Yahuah Elohim made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat, for in that day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Okay, so everyone sees that this knowledge of good and evil, not all knowledge is good for you. You know, everyone want to know certain things and how this happened and what's that going to happen. What about this and what about that? And who is this? Or what's that demon's name? What's that? Okay, some things is just not good for you. Job 35:13 says, surely Elohim does not hear an empty cry, nor does the Almighty regard it. How much less when you say that you do not see him, that the case is before him and you are waiting for him. And now because his anger does not punish and he does not take much note of transgression, Ayub opens his mouth in empty talk. He multiplies words without knowledge. How many of us do those things? Y'all familiar with how that works?
Yeah, we'll just start saying stuff out of our
He's
mouths.
just trying to show you how empty words work.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
go ahead.
exactly how it went. Yeah, we just start, because we don't understand something, then we just start talking about things that we don't have a knowledge of, and we'll make assumptions and just empty talk. That's most of the time just assumption about things you really don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to look at verse 15. It says, because his anger does not punish and he does not take much note on transgression. Like, how people say, why didn't he do this for those that did sins and transgressions and iniquities? And it's like, he's slow to come, and what's going on, right?
I'm so grateful.
You better be patient because you might find out something.
I'm so grateful.
Okay, Psalms 119 verse 6, it says, teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I believe in your commandments. Mishnah Proverbs 12:1, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. Now, my question to you is, how many of us love discipline?
I do.
Yes. I do.
My brethren, everybody.
Okay, you said you love it from who? From the Father, but how's the Father gonna give it to you? Okay, so if someone tells you you're doing something wrong, brother, sister, how does that make you feel sometimes? Who are you? I wish you would. Let me call my brother up. Let me tell you what this brother did. Let me call my sister up. Let me tell you what this sister did. Do you believe she had the nerve? He had the nerve, right? But then you ask yourself, but were they right? Isn't that the first question, to figure out if it's right or wrong? Mm-hmm.
If they don't correct you, they don't love you.
Right. They don't correct you, they don't love you. But they also got to recognize that too, because sometimes people think that the correction is to put them on some pedestal. If they get to that point, then that's the problem. Okay. All right. Where the Dead Sea Scroll says, by his truth, Elohim shall then purify all human deeds and refine some of the humanities so as to extinguish every perverse spirit from the inward parts. How is that done though? By his truth. Okay, keep that in mind. of the flesh, cleansing from every wicked deed by a kadosh or kadash spirit, set apart spirit, likewise purifying water. He shall sprinkle each with a spirit of truth, effectually against all the abomination of lying and suling, which means stained or tarnished by an unclean spirit. Thereby he shall give the upright insight into knowledge of Elyon and the wisdom of the Melachim, making wise those following the perfect way. Indeed, Elohim has chosen them for an eternal covenant. Okay, how are we doing so far? Sounds like y'all almost ready for them questions. Okay, we have. Oh, William, you had something?
Moreh, in that Qumran scroll right there, those 3 verses, is that also saying that there are unclean spirits in every person?
No. So
go ahead. Well, I was going to say, because it says, I know that we've been born with, we have this sinful nature, and the Ruach is who cleans us up. I was wondering what that was saying.
Right. So think about when you did your immersion. When you get immersed, what happens? What changes? Do you become this new creature, or you continue on walking in wickedness? Because that's what they're specifically talking about, is the flesh cleansing from every wicked deed. Right. So if your deeds are no longer wicked, now it's not to say that you're not going to be fighting the knowledge of good and evil in your mind. You're always going to be doing that until that's been purged. But it's how you act out these things. Some things you act out in ways of like even like an unclean spirit. But that's the whole point of an unclean spirit.
Torah.
Okay. All right. 2 Timothy 2:24 says, and this servant of Yahuah must not be quarrelsome. Okay. Mind you, remember I told you we were going to come back to this. Now we're back to the questions I got. So don't you worry. All right. Quarrelsome. What does it mean, quarrelsome? Yeah. They just like to argue, like to fight with everybody. Anyone met anybody like that? No? Just online? Okay. But be not talking about Zoom. Okay, but be kind unto all men. Then it says apt to teach. Says patient, correcting his opponents with harsh punishment. Is that what it says? Oh, you got to be a gentleness. You got to be with gentleness, huh? Okay. The Lord may perhaps grant them repentance leading to a knowledge of the truth. So in other words, the point of it is the hope that it can lead that person to truth. Okay. And they may come, because some of us like to be hard on people, right? Like to be rough. Okay. And they may come to their senses and escape from the snares of the devil after being captured by him to do his will. 3 verse 2 says, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money. Remember all these things that we went over, right? Yeah. All right. So now, since I don't need to reread, well, I'll read the last portion of it. Verse 8 says, just as Janus and Jambri opposed Musha and Moses, so these men also oppose the truth, men corrupted in mind and disqualified regarding the faith. All right. So now, your homework for yourself. Okay, this is your homework for yourself. These are all the things that I said we're going to revisit. And so I just put it in a bullet format. So ask yourself, if you fit any of these things, then you guys need to do some changing, right? So not being quarrelsome. So if you're being quarrelsome or not, right? Be kind unto all. Okay, men is implied, but it's really be kind unto all. Apt to teach, patient. I know all of us is patient, so I should have just took that out. All right, correcting his opponents with gentleness. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive. Now this abusive, what type of abuse they talking about? Physical abuse? It could be physical and mental, verbal. It could be all that's considered abuse. All right, disobedient to the parents, ungrateful, Kadash, or unset apart, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lover of pleasures rather than lovers of Yahuah. So now, I said, just you know, a little bit of my notes really fast. I said, I would like for everyone to look within yourselves and see if you can find any remnant or remnants of these negative qualities, and find the scriptures that will give you some examples of them, and find the scriptures that will help you overcome these things. If you can do this, you can be ready for the latter or last days. Okay? If you can do this, this is going to help you a great deal. Now, even if you don't have, even if some of these things are not you, right? Still have some scriptures for it, because you might come across somebody that's like that. And you might need to be ready to share, well, according to the writings, and we know it says this. Do you believe we should be this way? Well, where you read that at? Well, let me give you some examples. Okay? They've been with me so far. All right, your homework. We're almost there. Who is Janus and Jambres? Okay.
The magicians of Pharaoh's court.
Okay. All right, so now, here are the places you can find it. All right, the Apocryphon of Janus and Jambres of the magicians. Qumran community refers to the magicians by the name Janus. That's one of them. You can find it in the Damascus document. The Testament of Solomon also refers to magicians by names Janus and Jambres. Okay, those are three witnesses, and I wanted to give you another one. It's in the Targums of Shemot, or Exodus chapter 7, verse 10 through 12. So Moshe and Moses and Aaron and Aaron entered before Paro, or Pharaoh, and did thus as Yahuah had commanded. And Aaron and Aaron threw his staff down before the sight of Paro, or Pharaoh, before the sight of his servants, and it became a poisonous serpent. But Paro, or Pharaoh, also summoned the wise men, the magicians, and they did so also. Janus and Jambres, the magicians of Mitzrayim, with their magic spells. And each one of them threw down his staff, and they became poisonous serpents, and immediately they became like at the beginning, but the staff of Aaron swallowed their staff. Okay. So you got to ask yourself, where would the writer of Timothy get these names from, since it's not in the canon? Is there something else that was written that they could have been using? Because it's not in our canon, so I'm there's just other names. I'm just giving you an example. They had a different canon.
They had a bigger canon. They had a bigger canon.
Okay.
We have a small canon.
So just something to think about. But that's why I say I don't, so that's why I say when somebody, yeah, you read, I'm saying I'm only sharing the things that happened within those centuries. What did they have in these centuries that can help us see what they knew at that time? Doesn't mean that their stuff is wrong. Doesn't mean it's unrighteous. Doesn't mean it's, it's not. It's because it wasn't, because a lot of people look at things, if it's not in the canon, it's just not true. And you got to say, well, let's talk about who created the canon first, right? And then you got to say, was there a canon before the canon that you're using now, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot more to this, but that will be not in this lesson. Okay, summary. This is it here. All right, so this understanding of the latter days, tribulation characterized by false teaching, and this is specifically in Shaul's time. He's thinking these are all the latter days and what to expect. Now I'm sharing this is to say that if it's happening now, all these things, then you should understand this is also signs for us to understand these are latter days. All right, but unbelief is in line with expectations that we observe in Daniel 7 through chapter 7 through chapter 12, and in earlier writings like the Dead Sea Scrolls, Testament of the Patriarchs. When the kingdom was at hand during the time of Mashiach, they rejected him, and the age continued. You know about Mark 1:14-15. Now after that, Yehukanan or John was put into prison, Yahushua came into Galilee preaching the Basara, or the good news of the kingdom of Eloah or Elohim, and saying the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of Eloah is at hand. Repent you and believe the Basara, or believe the good news. Now again, same thing that he's saying to them, it's at hand, repent. That's what we need to do. If you know that we got some of those in that list, if you meet any of those, 1, 2, 10, 5, whatever it is, it's your time to repent and understand about the kingdom. Why? Because it says the age continues into us today. We must prepare for the kingdom, which first starts within us. Luke 17:21 says, neither shall they say, lo here or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of Elohim is within you. If the kingdom of Elohim is within you, then the things that you saw that you shouldn't have cannot be in that kingdom. Does it make sense? Okay. So in order for this kingdom to be operational in you, you must look within yourselves and continue to clean out things not like Yahuah. We started the first stage of being a new creature through our immersion. Next stage was, or is, the Haruach, or the spirit, which operates in you and on behalf of Yahuah. It leads and guides, right? You guys know that in John. Leads and guides, it gives strength, wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and skills. It gives us fruit that can be seen. We take these abilities and use it for healing and endurance. This endurance will get us to the redemption stage. And this stage will be renewing, we will be a renewing or a new heart, have a new heart. It will cause us to be sons of light. The last stage is when we take off corruption and put on white robes or pure light to be immortal, to be like the Malachim, so that we can forever be in the presence of Yahuah and our bridegroom, HaMashiach, which with the hosts of heaven, right? So these are all stages, right? And so right now you got to figure out, hey, I did my immersion, or, I know I got the spirit, the Father in me, it's leading, guiding me in the word. But then there's some other things that as it starts to illuminate things in you, start to say, wow, I am a wicked person, or wow, this is not right, or oh, I need to purge this. You start cleansing, getting a cleaning going, right? Because you're preparing so that this kingdom is ready. So when it comes, this kingdom turns into a different body and it matches the kingdom that's coming. The new creation is going to match the new creation. Is everybody with me so far? Yeah. All right. Any questions?
Oh, Moreh, I do have a quick question. So you were asking a question in reference to Planas and Jamborees, in reference to where did the names come, because it wasn't in the canon.
Say it again. Repeat.
Can you hear me, Moreh?
Okay, I can hear you now. Say it one more time.
I was speaking. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yep, I can hear you now. Yep, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay. Well, I was speaking, but I don't know if you can hear me, Moreh.
Oh no. No, we didn't hear you.
So you were asking where the names Janice and Jamborees could possibly come from, because it wasn't in the canon?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not in the canon.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll type it in.
Okay. Yeah, it's not in canon.
I'll type it on.
Okay. Well, no worries. It's not in the canon, but I shared where it was located. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Moreh, I did have a quick question. Earlier on in the lesson, you had mentioned that, there's the current age and then there's the age to come. So in reference to Hamashiach's words, where he had stated that he would be with us until the end of the age, is he talking about all of the ages, or is he talking about this particular current age, or the age to come, or how is that?
So the difference is it's the same thing as when it said the latter days or the last days, and then you hear the last day. You got end of ages, and then you got the end of the age. So there's a final age, there's a last day. He's specifically talking about that time period. Okay, anyone else? All righty. We can
Nah,
stand
mine is still typing her question.
Oh, it's okay. We can stand and close.
Baruch atah Yahuah Eloheinu melech haolam. Father, we thank you for this lesson that we just received. We ask, Father, that you let us have that lesson in our hearts, minds, and souls. Help us to be doers of your word. Help us to walk in righteousness. Help us to see the things the way that you want us to see it and not the way we want to see it. We ask, Father, that you humble our spirits, humble our minds,